Hey there, tired listener. Tonight we're taking a trip way, way back. And I mean way back. We're talking 800,000 years ago. Before TikTok, before the wheel, before anyone had the brilliant idea to invent pants. We're heading to a time when being human meant being cold, hungry, and constantly one wrong move away from becoming a saber-toothed cat's lunch special. Today's episode? We're living a day in the life of Homo heidelbergensis, your distant cousin. The ancestor who had it rough in ways you can't even imagine. Spoiler alert, it sucked. Like, monumentally sucked. There was no Uber Eats, no heated blankets, and definitely no therapy for the trauma of watching your buddy get trampled by a woolly rhino. So, go ahead. Turn off that light. Snuggle into your memory foam mattress with its 14 pillows and temperature-regulating sheets. Get comfortable in your climate-controlled bedroom. Because after tonight, you're gonna be real grateful you weren't born when your biggest concern was whether that rustling in the bushes was dinner or whether you were dinner. And hey, before sleep drags you under, do me a solid. Hit that like button, subscribe to this channel, and smash that notification bell so you don't miss out on more historical suffering. And drop a comment telling me where you're listening from and what ungodly hour insomnia decided to visit. Always nice to know there are other night owls out there embracing the boredom with me. All right, lights off, eyes closed. Let's go meet your great-great-great times 30,000 grandfather. Trust me, family reunions were rough back then. You're not waking up to an alarm. There are no alarms. There's no gentle sunrise filtering through curtains because, surprise, curtains haven't been invented yet. What wakes you is the cold. Bone-deep, soul-crushing, why is existence pain kind of cold. You're curled up on the floor of a cave. Well, cave is generous. It's more like a rocky overhang that keeps maybe 60% of the wind out. The ground beneath you is hard-packed dirt mixed with dried grass that you and your group gathered yesterday. It smells like smoke, sweat, and something vaguely deceased that nobody's bothered to identify yet. Your blanket is a pile of animal hides. Deer, mostly. Maybe some horse if the hunt went well last month. The fur is matted, stiff in places, and definitely hasn't been washed because, again, that's not a thing yet. But it's keeping you technically alive, so you're not complaining. Out loud, anyway. The fire in the center of the shelter has died down to glowing embers. Someone was supposed to keep it going through the night. That someone clearly dozed off because now it's almost out. And the temperature has dropped from uncomfortably chilly to legitimately dangerous. You can see your breath in the dim pre-dawn light. Little clouds of vapor that disappear into the cold air. Around you, other members of your group are waking up too. There are maybe 20 of you total. Men, women, kids, everyone huddled together because body heat is the only heating system you've got. You're probably related to most of them, some closer than others. This isn't a family by choice, it's a family by survival. You stick together, or you die alone. Simple math. You sit up slowly. Every joint protests. Your back aches from sleeping on the ground, even with the hide beneath you. Your shoulder, the one you injured last week trying to spear a wild boar, throbs with a dull, persistent pain. There's no ibuprofen, no ice pack, no gentle physical therapist telling you to rest. You just deal with it. You've been dealing with it your whole life. The first task of the day is always the same. Get that fire going again. Fire is life. Fire is warmth, light, protection, cooking. Fire is the difference between being human and being just another animal shivering in the dark. Someone shuffles over to the embers and starts adding small twigs, blowing gently to coax the flames back to life. You watch the smoke rise toward the cave opening. It's gray and thick, and it makes your eyes water, but nobody complains. Smoke means fire. Fire means survival. That's the equation. You've never questioned it, because questioning whether breathing smoke is healthy isn't really a priority when your main concern is not getting eaten by a cave bear. Outside, you can hear sounds. Birds, maybe. Or something bigger. It's hard to tell. Your ears have learned to distinguish between harmless background noise and immediate threat. But at this hour, everything sounds vaguely ominous. The world outside is still mostly dark, just starting to lighten with the first hints of dawn. You need to pee, badly. But going outside right now, in the cold, in the dark, when predators are most active, that's a calculated risk. You hold it a little longer. Discomfort is familiar. Discomfort is constant. You've made peace with discomfort because you don't have a choice. Okay? You can't hold it anymore. Nature is calling, and nature doesn't have voicemail. You grab a stick, a thick one that could double as a weapon if needed, and you shuffle toward the cave entrance. A couple of other people are doing the same thing. There's safety in numbers, even when you're just trying to relieve yourself. The morning air hits you like a slap. It's frigid, biting, the kind of cold that makes your lungs hurt when you breathe in. The landscape outside is painted in shades of gray and blue, pre-dawn light casting long shadows across the valley. You can see your breath hanging in the air like tiny ghosts. You walk a little distance from the shelter, not too far, just far enough to avoid fouling your own living space. Hygiene is primitive, but it exists. You squat, do your business, and try not to think about toilet paper because that's a concept that won't exist for another 799,000 years, give or take. While you're out here, you scan the horizon. It's habit. You're always watching for movement, for signs of danger, for anything that doesn't belong. In the distance, you can see a herd of something. Horses, maybe, or deer. Too far away to tell, but you make a mental note. Food is always on your mind because food is scarce, and hunger is a constant companion. Back at the shelter, the fire is going strong now. Someone has added larger branches, and the flames are crackling with satisfying intensity. The warmth draws everyone closer, like moths to a porch light. You position yourself near the fire, holding out your hands to absorb as much heat as possible. Your fingers are stiff from the cold, and it takes a few minutes before they start to feel functional again. Breakfast is a generous term for what comes next. There's some leftover meat from 2 days ago hanging on a makeshift rack near the fire. It's dried, tough, and probably crawling with bacteria by modern standards, but you tear off a piece and start chewing. The taste is smoky, gamey, and requires some serious jaw work to break down. No seasoning, no sauce, just meat. Pure protein. Your body needs it. Someone hands you a stone cup filled with water. The water was collected from a stream nearby yesterday and stored in a hollowed-out section of wood. It tastes vaguely earthy, probably has some sediment in it, and you definitely don't think about the microscopic organisms throwing a party in there. You drink it anyway because dehydration will kill you faster than questionable water quality. The group is starting to stir. People are stretching, grunting, making sounds that might be early attempts at communication. You've got language, sort of. It's not Shakespeare. It's more like grunts, gestures, a few specific sounds that mean specific things. Danger. Food. Come here. Stay back. The vocabulary is limited, but it gets the job done. An older member of the group, someone who's survived long enough to have gray in their hair, a genuine achievement, starts gesturing toward the entrance. Time to plan the day. Hunting, gathering, maintaining the shelter, keeping the fire going. These are the tasks. These have always been the tasks. These will always be the tasks. You nod. Your voice, when you try to speak, comes out rough, uncertain. That's the thing about language at this stage. It's developing, evolving, but it's not smooth. Words catch in your throat. Sounds don't always come out right. Your vocal cords are capable, but your brain is still figuring out the software. Spoiler from the title. Your voice still trembles. Not from fear, necessarily, but from the sheer effort of trying to communicate in this new, weird way that your species is experimenting with. The decision is made. Today is a hunting day. The dried meat won't last much longer, and the group is hungry. Real hungry. The kind of hungry where your stomach has stopped growling and started plotting revenge. A few of you will go out, track game, and hopefully bring back something substantial. No pressure, except for the literal survival of everyone depending on you. Totally chill. You're chosen for the hunting party. It's an honor, kind of. It means you're strong enough, skilled enough, trusted enough. It also means you might not come back, but nobody dwells on that part. 5 of you gear up, which in this case means grabbing your spear and a couple of stone tools tucked into a rough hide belt. Your spear is a masterpiece by 800,000-year-ago standards. It's a wooden shaft, maybe 6 feet long, sharpened to a point, and then hardened in the fire. The tip has been fitted with a sharp stone blade, carefully flaked and shaped over hours of patient work, then lashed to the wood with sinew. It's not pretty, but it's deadly. You've used it before. You'll use it again today. The stone tools at your belt are equally important. One is a hand axe, a palm-sized chunk of flint that's been chipped into a rough teardrop shape with a sharp edge. It can cut through hide, chop wood, break bones, or bash in a skull if things get desperate. The other is a scraper, useful for cleaning hides once you've got a kill. These tools represent hours of work, careful strikes with another stone to create edges sharp enough to function. Before you leave, one of the group elders approaches. They're doing some kind of ritual, marking your forehead with ash from the fire, making sounds that might be a prayer or might be a pep talk. It's hard to tell. Religion and superstition are all mixed up at this point. You stand still and let it happen because tradition matters, and also because you'll take any advantage you can get, even if it's just psychological. The hunting party sets out just as the sun is starting to clear the horizon. The light is weak, pale, but it's enough to see by. You move quietly, single file, each person watching a different direction. Predators are everywhere. Cave lions, saber-toothed cats, giant short-faced bears. You're not at the top of the food chain. You're somewhere in the middle, which means you're both hunter and hunted. Fun times. The landscape is harsh. It's still in the grip of an ice age, technically, though you don't know that. All you know is that it's cold more often than not, and the winters are brutal. Right now, it's early spring, maybe, and the ground is a mix of frozen mud and patches of dead grass. Trees are sparse, mostly scrubby pines and birches. The valley stretches out in front of you, and in the distance, you can see more hills, more trees, more unknown territory. You follow tracks, big tracks, hoof prints pressed into the soft earth near a stream. The leader of your hunting party, A stocky man with a scarred face and missing 2 fingers on his left hand kneels down and examines them. He grunts, gestures forward. Deer, probably. Or horse. Either way, meat. Big meat. Enough to feed the group for days if you're successful. The hunt requires patience. You're not chasing the animal down in a sprint. That's a good way to exhaust yourself and get nothing. Instead, you're tracking, moving slowly, staying downwind so your scent doesn't spook the prey. You communicate with hand signals. Point, stop, move left, quiet. The words might be trembling and uncertain, but your gestures are crystal clear. After what feels like hours, but is probably only 1, you spot them. A small group of horses grazing in a clearing. They're big, shaggy, with thick winter coats they haven't fully shed yet. Wild horses, ancestors of the domesticated ones that won't exist for hundreds of thousands of years. Right now, they're just food on hooves. The group spreads out. This is coordinated, practiced. You've done this before, though never without that spike of adrenaline that makes your heart pound and your hands sweat despite the cold. 2 people will circle around to cut off the escape route. 2 others will drive the horses toward the trap. You're one of the strikers, waiting in position with your spear ready. The horses are grazing peacefully, completely unaware that they're about to have a very bad day. You watch them from your hiding spot behind a cluster of rocks, spear gripped tight in both hands. Your breathing is shallow, controlled. Every muscle is tense, coiled like a spring. This is the moment. This is what survival looks like. The signal comes. A sharp whistle, a sound that mimics a bird call but isn't quite right. The drivers emerge from their hiding spots, shouting, waving their arms, throwing stones. The horses' heads snap up, ears forward, eyes wide. For a split second, they freeze, trying to figure out which direction the threat is coming from. Then they bolt. Of course they bolt. That's what prey animals do. They're fast, too. Faster than you'd think for animals that size. But your group has been smart. The escape route is blocked, funneling the horses toward where you and the other striker are waiting. It's working. It's actually working. One of the horses, a younger one, breaks from the group and runs straight toward you. This is it. You stand up from your hiding spot, spear raised. The horse sees you, tries to change direction, but the terrain is rough and it stumbles slightly. That's your opening. You throw the spear, not throw like a javelin at the Olympics. It's more of a thrust, using both hands to drive the weapon forward with all the force you can muster. The stone point hits the horse in the shoulder, sinking deep into muscle. The horse screams, a high-pitched sound that cuts through the morning air, and it crashes to the ground, legs kicking wildly. But it's not dead. Not even close. This is where hunting gets real. You rush forward, grabbing your hand axe from your belt. The horse is thrashing, eyes rolling in terror, blood pumping from the wound. You feel something in your chest, a mix of excitement and horror. This animal is dying because of you. Your group will eat because of this. Both things are true at once. You strike with the axe, aiming for the head, trying to end it quickly. It takes 3 hits, 3 solid, sickening hits before the horse stops moving. By the time it's over, you're breathing hard, covered in blood, hands shaking. Not from fear. From adrenaline, from exertion, from the sheer intensity of taking a life. The other striker got one too, a larger horse, an adult, lying in the grass with a spear through its chest. 2 kills. The hunting party is ecstatic, making sounds that might be cheers or might be relief or might be prayers. You all join in, creating a chorus of grunts and calls that echo across the valley. You've succeeded. You won't go hungry. Not today, at least. But there's no time to celebrate for long. Blood attracts predators. Lots of predators. You need to butcher the horses and get the meat back to the shelter before something bigger and meaner shows up to claim your kill. The leader starts barking orders, gestures sharp and urgent. Move. Work. Fast. You pull out your scraper and start cutting into the horse's hide. The skin is thick, tough, but your stone tool is sharp enough to do the job. You work methodically, peeling back the hide to expose the meat underneath. It's hot, steaming in the cold air, and the smell is overwhelming. Iron and flesh, and something primal that makes your stomach growl even though you're elbow deep in gore. The liver comes out first. It's a delicacy, and the leader takes a bite raw, blood running down his chin. He offers you a piece. You take it, tear off a chunk with your teeth. It's warm, metallic, and surprisingly not terrible. Protein, energy, vitamins your body desperately needs. You swallow without thinking too hard about it. The butchering takes time. You're cutting away chunks of meat, trying to take as much as you can carry. The choice cuts from the haunches, the ribs, the shoulders. The organs get packed into a section of the stomach, which makes for a convenient, if gross, carrying sack. The hide will be dragged back too, useful for clothing and shelter repairs. Then you hear it. A sound that makes every hair on your body stand up. A low, rumbling growl coming from the tree line. You freeze. Everyone freezes, eyes scanning the shadows. There, between the trees, 2 eyes reflecting the morning light. Then 4, then 6. Wolves. Big ones. Dire wolves, though you don't have a name for them. All you know is they're competitors, and they want what you've got. The pack emerges slowly, circling, testing. They're not attacking yet, just evaluating. You're outnumbered, but you're armed. You grab your spear, the one you pulled from the horse, blood still dripping from the point. The other hunters do the same, forming a tight circle around the meat. Shoulders back, weapons ready, making yourselves look bigger, more dangerous. You start making noise, shouting, banging your tools against rocks, creating a wall of sound. It works. Kind of. The wolves hesitate, pace back and forth, growling low and hungry. But they don't charge. The risk isn't worth it, not when there are easier meals elsewhere. After what feels like an eternity, but is probably only a few minutes, they back off, disappearing into the trees. You exhale. Hard. Chapter 5. The Long Walk Home. The meat is loaded. Well, loaded is a generous term. You're carrying chunks of horse flesh wrapped in sections of hide, strapped to your back with strips of sinew. It's heavy, awkward, and the blood is seeping through the hide and down your back. You can feel it, warm at first, then cooling and sticky against your skin. There's no changing clothes when you get home. These are your clothes, and they're about to smell like dead horse for the foreseeable future. The walk back to the shelter is long. Longer than the walk out, because now you're weighed down with meat and constantly looking over your shoulder for predators who might have picked up the scent. The blood trail you're leaving is basically a neon sign that says, "Free meal this way." Not ideal, but there's no other option. You can't leave the meat behind. That's not even a consideration. Your legs ache. The shoulder injury from last week is screaming at you now. the weight of the meat pulling on muscles that really need rest. But rest isn't on the schedule. Rest is for when you're dead, which hopefully won't be today, but statistically could be any day now. Life expectancy for Homo heidelbergensis? Maybe 30 years if you're lucky. Most don't make it past 25. You're somewhere in your early 20s, which makes you middle-aged by the standards of your time. Think about that for a second. The group moves in formation, weapons ready despite the heavy loads. The leader is at the front, scanning constantly. Someone's at the rear, watching the back trail. You're in the middle, which is simultaneously the safest and most exposed position. Safe from direct attack, exposed to whatever might come from the sides. It's a calculated placement based on your skill level and value to the group. You're good, but not great. Competent, but not indispensable. That's just how it is. About halfway back, one of the younger hunters stumbles. His load shifts, and a chunk of meat falls to the ground. He stops to pick it up, and that's when you all hear it. That sound, the one that makes your stomach drop and your mouth go dry. A roar. Deep, rumbling, coming from somewhere close. Too close. Everyone freezes. The meat is temporarily forgotten. Eyes scan the landscape, looking for the source. There, on a rocky outcrop maybe 50 yards away, silhouetted against the sky, a cave lion. Male, judging by the size. And he's not alone. Another shape moves in the shadows behind him. Maybe a female. Maybe cubs. Either way, this is their territory, and you're in it. The leader makes a decision fast. No running. Running triggers the chase instinct, and you can't outrun a cave lion, especially not carrying half a horse on your back. Instead, you group together, forming a tight cluster, weapons pointed outward. You start making noise again, shouting, banging spears against rocks, anything to make yourselves seem bigger, more dangerous, not worth the effort. The lion watches. He's calculating too, same as you. Is this meal worth the risk? He's got claws and teeth, and can probably take down 2 or 3 of you before the rest manage to drive him off. But he might get injured in the process, and an injured lion is a dead lion. Starvation is a slow death, same for predators as it is for prey. The standoff lasts forever, or maybe 2 minutes. Time does weird things when you're staring down an apex predator with nothing but a pointy stick between you and becoming cat food. Eventually the lion huffs, turns, and disappears back into the rocks. The female follows. You're not interesting enough, or maybe they just fed recently. Either way, you're still alive. The group doesn't relax, not really, but you start moving again. Faster now. The encounter was a reminder that you're never truly safe out here. The world is full of things that want to eat you, and the only reason you're still breathing is a combination of luck, teamwork, and enough weaponry to make you slightly more trouble than you're worth. By the time you reach the shelter, the sun is past its peak and starting its descent toward the horizon. You've been gone most of the day. Your muscles are screaming, your shoulder is a knot of pain, and you're pretty sure you pulled something in your lower back. But you made it. And you brought food. That's a win. The group back at the shelter sees you coming and starts making excited sounds. They rush out to meet you, hands reaching to help carry the load. Kids are running around, poking at the meat with sticks, getting in the way. The elders are nodding approval, making those grunting sounds that might be praise. You did good. You all did good. The meat gets deposited near the fire, and immediately the work begins. This isn't a situation where you get to rest after a successful hunt. Success means more work, just a different kind. The meat needs to be processed, preserved, distributed. Everyone has a role, and you fall into yours without needing to be told. You grab your scraper and start working on one of the larger pieces, cutting it into manageable chunks. The stone blade slices through muscle and fat with practiced efficiency. Your hands are covered in blood, your fingernails caked with bits of flesh. There's no soap, no running water, no hand sanitizer. You'll wipe your hands on the grass later and call it good enough. Some of the meat goes directly onto wooden spits and gets positioned over the fire. Within minutes, the smell of cooking horse fills the air, and your stomach responds with an audible growl. You haven't eaten anything substantial since that dried meat at dawn, and your body is running on fumes and adrenaline. The smell is intoxicating, primal, triggering every hunger response your brain has. But you can't just grab a piece and start eating. There's hierarchy. The leader eats first, then the elders, then the successful hunters, then everyone else. It's not written down because writing doesn't exist, but everyone knows the rules. Break them, and you risk getting kicked out of the group. And being alone out here, that's a death sentence. While the meat cooks, others are working on the hide. It gets stretched out on the ground and scraped clean of fat and tissue. This is tedious, careful work. The hide will be used for clothing, bedding, or patches for the shelter walls. Nothing gets wasted. Can't afford to waste anything when resources are this scarce. Finally, the first pieces of meat come off the fire. The leader tears into his portion, and the sound of teeth ripping through cooked flesh is actually pleasant after the day you've had. He chews, swallows, grunts approval. Then the distribution begins. When your turn comes, you're handed a chunk of meat about the size of your fist. It's hot, almost too hot to hold, and the outside is charred black, while the inside is barely cooked, still red and juicy. By modern standards, this is a health code violation waiting to happen. By your standards, this is a feast. You bite in. The taste is incredible, smoky, rich, with that gamey flavor that wild horse has. The texture is tough, requires serious chewing, but that's fine. Your jaw muscles are strong from a lifetime of eating food that fights back. You tear off another piece, chew, swallow, tear, chew, swallow. It's not elegant. Nobody's using utensils or napkins or worrying about table manners. This is eating at its most fundamental. Fuel for the body. Calories to keep you alive another day. Around the fire, everyone is eating with the same focused intensity. The only sounds are chewing, the crackle of the fire, and the occasional grunt of satisfaction. This is community. This is what holds the group together. Shared danger, shared labor, shared reward. You look around at these people, your people, and feel something that might be contentment. Or maybe just relief that you're not hungry for once. The kids get their portions too, smaller pieces that they attack with enthusiasm. One little girl, maybe 5 years old, is gnawing on a rib bone, her face covered in grease. She catches you looking and grins, showing teeth that are already starting to wear down from the gritty diet. She'll probably lose a few teeth before she's 30, assuming she makes it that long. But right now, she's happy. And that's rare enough to be worth noting. After the initial feeding frenzy, the pace slows. People are still eating, but now there's time to breathe, to relax slightly. Someone starts making sounds, rhythmic sounds, that might be an early form of music. Others join in, creating a pattern of beats and tones that's surprisingly complex. This is culture forming in real time. This is what separates you from the other animals. Well, this and the fire and the tools and the language, but mostly the music right now. You lean back against the cave wall, still chewing on your portion of meat. Your stomach is fuller than it's been in days, and the warmth from the fire is seeping into your bones. For this moment, this brief, fleeting moment, life doesn't completely suck. You're warm, fed, surrounded by your group. This is as good as it gets. But the moment doesn't last. It never does. One of the elders is already gesturing, talking about tomorrow. More hunting needed. The shelter needs repairs before the next rain. Firewood needs gathering. The work never stops. Survival is a full-time job with no vacation days, no retirement plan, and definitely no pension. While the feast continues, you notice tension building on the other side of the fire. Two of the men are facing off, voices raised, gestures sharp and aggressive. You can't make out all the words, because remember, language is still pretty basic, but the tone is crystal clear. They're pissed. The argument seems to be about the meat distribution. One of them thinks he deserved a larger portion, that his contribution to the hunt was greater than recognized. The other is defending the leader's decision, or maybe defending his own share. It's hard to tell exactly, but conflict over resources is a tale as old as time, or at least as old as 800,000 years. The rest of the group is watching. This is entertainment, in a way, but it's also serious. Conflicts like this can tear a group apart, and a fractured group is a dead group. The leader steps in, positioning himself between the two men. He's making sounds, gestures, trying to calm things down. His authority is being tested, and how he handles this will determine whether he stays in charge. The argument escalates. One of the men shoves the other. It's not a hard shove, more symbolic than violent, but it's enough. The leader grabs the aggressor by the arm and yanks him back. Then he does something interesting. He takes a piece of his own meat, his portion that he already claimed, and hands it to the man who was complaining. A peace offering, a bribe, a demonstration of generosity that reinforces his position. The man takes the meat, looks at it, looks at the leader, then nods. Crisis averted. The tension drains away, replaced by a kind of grudging acceptance. This is leadership in its most primitive form. Not speeches or elections, just the ability to manage egos and distribute resources in a way that keeps everyone from killing each other. It's exhausting just to watch. You turn your attention away from the drama and focus on your own situation. Your shoulder is still throbbing, and now that the adrenaline from the hunt has worn off, you're becoming increasingly aware of every ache, pain, and bruise on your body. You press your fingers against the injury, trying to assess the damage. It's swollen, hot to the touch, probably inflamed, could be infected, though that's not a concept you have words for. All you know is it hurts, and it's not getting better. One of the older women notices you wincing. She shuffles over, making concerned sounds, and reaches out to examine your shoulder. She's the closest thing the group has to a healer, which means she's seen enough injuries to know what usually kills people and what doesn't. Her hands are rough but gentle as she probes the swollen area. She disappears for a moment and comes back with a handful of leaves. You recognize them. Willow bark. She chews them first, breaking down the plant material, then makes a gesture for you to open your mouth. You do, and she spits the chewed-up paste directly onto your tongue. It's gross. It's intimate in a way that would be uncomfortable if you had the luxury of being uncomfortable. But this is medicine. The willow bark contains salicylic acid, the precursor to aspirin, though obviously you don't know that. All you know is that it sometimes helps with pain. You swallow the paste, trying not to gag on the bitter taste. The healer then takes more of the chewed leaves and applies them directly to your shoulder, patting them into place. It's cool against your hot skin, and while you don't expect miracles, the attention is comforting. Someone cares whether you live or die. That matters. She makes a sound, pats your good shoulder, and shuffles back to her spot by the fire. You nod thanks, even though nodding as a gesture of gratitude might not be fully established yet. Some things are universal, or they become universal, or they're in the process of becoming universal. Language is weird when it's still being invented. As the sun starts to sink below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple that are genuinely beautiful if you have time to notice, the group shifts into evening mode. The fire needs to be maintained through the night, which means a lot of firewood. You volunteer for gathering duty, partly to be useful and partly to get away from the drama still simmering by the fire. You grab your hand axe and head out with two others, staying close to the shelter this time. The dead wood is getting scarcer near the camp because you've been here for a while, slowly exhausting the easy resources. Eventually, you'll have to move, find a new territory, start the whole process over. But not today. Today, you just need enough wood to make it through the night. You find a dead tree, not huge, but substantial enough to provide several armfuls of branches. The hand axe makes short work of the smaller limbs, the stone blade biting into the dried wood with satisfying cracks. You work quickly but carefully. An injury from a stupid mistake, like cutting yourself with your own tool, is potentially fatal. Infection, blood loss, inability to work, all bad outcomes. The other two are working on different sections of the tree, and between the three of you, you quickly accumulate a decent pile of firewood. You bundle it using strips of bark, creating makeshift carriers that you can drag or carry back to camp. It's not sophisticated, but it works. On the walk back, you spot something moving in the underbrush. You freeze, hand going to the axe at your belt. The others freeze too, eyes scanning. Then a rabbit bursts from cover and darts away, zigzagging across the open ground. It's too fast to catch, but you note the location. Where there's one rabbit, there are usually more. Maybe tomorrow someone can set a trap, add some variety to the diet. Back at camp, the firewood gets stacked near the shelter entrance, within easy reach of whoever's on fire duty tonight. That's another task that gets rotated. Someone has to stay awake and feed the fire regularly. It's boring, exhausting, and absolutely critical. Let the fire go out overnight, and you might wake up frozen. Or you might not wake up at all. The sky is almost fully dark now, stars starting to emerge in that way they do when there's zero light pollution. The Milky Way is a bright smear across the sky, more stars visible than most modern humans will ever see in their lifetime. It's spectacular, cosmic, humbling. Your ancestors don't know what stars are, not really. Lights in the sky, maybe spirits, maybe holes in some celestial dome. The mythology is still being written. You settle back into your spot near the fire, pulling an animal hide over your shoulders. The temperature is dropping fast now that the sun is gone, and the fire is the only thing standing between you and a very uncomfortable night. Others are doing the same, arranging themselves in the sleeping area, kids cuddled against adults for warmth, couples pressed close together. There's some quiet conversation happening. Those trembling, uncertain words being shared across the fire. Stories, maybe, about the hunt. Warnings about the cave lion. Plans for tomorrow. The language is limited, But the intent to communicate is strong. You're watching your species figure out how to talk to each other, how to share information, how to build a collective knowledge base that's more than just instinct. Someone asks you something, a series of sounds that you interpret as a question about your shoulder. You respond, using gestures and a few words, indicating that it hurts, but you can still function. They nod, seem satisfied, turn away. The conversation moves on to other topics, and you're left with your thoughts. Lying here in the darkness, fire crackling, surrounded by the sounds of your group settling in for the night, your mind wanders. Not in the abstract, philosophical way modern humans might think. Your brain doesn't work quite like that yet, but you're aware, conscious, processing the day's events in whatever way your developing cognition allows. You think about the hunt. The feel of the spear in your hands, the moment it sank into the horse's shoulder, the look in the animal's eyes as it died. There's something there, some feeling that's hard to name. Not quite guilt, but adjacent to it. You understand that the horse was alive, like you're alive, and now it's not. That matters somehow, even if you can't articulate why. You think about the cave lion, how close that was, how easily the day could have ended with you as the meal instead of the horse. Death is a constant presence in your life, always lurking, always one mistake away. You've seen people die, lots of people. Hunting accidents, predator attacks, infections, childbirth, just random bad luck. The group used to be bigger. It's smaller now. You remember faces that aren't here anymore, voices that went silent. The fire is warm on your face, but your back is cold. That's just how it is. You can't be warm everywhere at once unless you're actually in the fire, which would solve the cold problem but create several new problems. So you accept the discomfort, shift slightly to redistribute the warmth, pull the hide tighter around your shoulders. A sound outside makes everyone alert instantly. Heads lift, eyes turn toward the entrance. It's distant, echoing across the valley. Another sound follows, then silence. Could be anything. Could be nothing. Could be a pack of predators hunting in the dark. The fire tender adds more wood, building up the flames. Fire is protection. Fire keeps the darkness, and what lives in the darkness, at bay. Slowly, the group relaxes again. False alarm, or at least not an immediate threat. You lower your head back down, trying to find a comfortable position on the hard ground. Your hip bone presses against the earth, and you know from experience that it'll be sore by morning. But sleep is necessary, so you ignore the discomfort and close your eyes. Sleep doesn't come immediately. Your mind is still processing, still working through the day. You hear the breathing of others around you, the snores and snuffles of people deep in sleep. The fire crackles rhythmically, almost hypnotic. Somewhere in the distance, something howls. Could be wolves. Could be something else. You're too tired to care much. Your thoughts drift to tomorrow. More gathering, probably. The meat will last a few days if it's rationed properly, which means the pressure is off slightly. You can focus on other things, repairing tools, reinforcing the shelter, maybe exploring a new area for resources. The work never ends, but at least it's varied work. You think about language in whatever abstract way your brain can conceive of it. The sounds you make, the way they convey meaning, how some sounds are easier than others, how your voice trembles and catches when you try new combinations. It's frustrating, this limitation. You have thoughts, complex ones, but the tools to express them are still under development. It's like trying to build a shelter with half the materials missing. functional, but incomplete. Eventually, exhaustion wins. Your body overrides your restless mind, and you drift into sleep. It's not deep sleep, not the kind where you're completely unconscious. You're still alert on some level, still monitoring for danger. It's a survival mechanism, and it means you never truly rest. But it's better than nothing. You're jolted awake by noise, loud noise, screaming. Not animal screaming, human screaming. Your eyes snap open, and for a disorienting second, you don't know where you are or what's happening. Then the adrenaline hits, and you're on your feet, hand reaching for your spear. The fire is bright, freshly fed, casting wild shadows across the cave walls. People are moving, shouting, pointing toward the entrance. There, silhouetted in the firelight, is a shape. Big, hulking. A bear. A massive, fur-covered nightmare of teeth and claws that's wandered too close to the shelter, probably attracted by the smell of the horse meat. The bear is at the entrance, not inside yet, but testing the boundaries. It rises up on its hind legs, and even from across the shelter, you can see how enormous it is. 8 feet tall, maybe more. Front paws the size of dinner plates, tipped with claws that could disembowel you with a casual swipe. This is a short-faced bear, one of the largest predators of the Ice Age, and it's decided that your shelter smells interesting. The group responds immediately, instinctively. Everyone who can fight grabs a weapon. Spears, hand axes, even burning branches from the fire. You form a line between the bear and the rest of the group, where the children and elderly have retreated to the back of the shelter. This is it. This is the test. Either you drive the bear off, or people are going to die tonight. The leader is in front, spear raised, shouting at the top of his lungs. It's not words, not really, just noise meant to intimidate. Everyone joins in, creating a wall of sound. You're screaming too, your voice mixing with the others, and you realize this is what language might have evolved from. Not quiet communication, but loud, aggressive displays meant to scare off threats. The bear doesn't seem impressed. It drops back to all fours and takes a step into the shelter. Then another. Its eyes reflect the firelight, giving it an almost demonic appearance. Someone throws a burning branch at it. The branch lands at the bear's feet, sparks flying, and finally, the bear hesitates. Fire. The bear doesn't like fire. Nothing does. Fire is your advantage, your weapon, your trump card in a world full of things bigger and stronger than you. The leader realizes this and starts grabbing more burning branches, throwing them toward the entrance, creating a barrier of flame between the bear and the group. It works. The bear backs up, swipes at one of the burning branches, yelps when it gets singed. It makes one more aggressive move, a bluff charge that has everyone's hearts in their throats, but the fire line holds. The bear finally decides this meal isn't worth the trouble and lumbers away into the darkness, leaving behind nothing but the smell of wet fur and terror. The group doesn't relax immediately. Weapons stay raised, eyes stay fixed on the entrance, waiting to see if the bear will come back. But minutes pass, then more minutes, and there's no sign of it. Slowly, carefully, people start to breathe again. The fire tender immediately gets to work building up the fire even bigger, creating more light, more warmth, more protection. Others start moving rocks and branches to the entrance, creating a makeshift barricade. It won't stop a determined bear, but it might slow one down, give more warning next time. You're shaking. Not from cold, from adrenaline dump. Your hands are trembling, your legs feel weak, and you realize you came very close to dying just now. again. For the second time today. That's just life. That's normal. You shove the terror down, compartmentalize it, because falling apart isn't an option. You need to be functional, because tomorrow there will be new dangers, new threats, new opportunities to get killed. The rest of the night is tense. Nobody really sleeps, not deeply. The fire is kept burning bright, fed constantly. Guards are posted at the entrance, spears ready. Kids cry, get comforted, cry some more. The elderly mutter among themselves, making sounds that might be prayers or might be complaints. You can't tell. You huddle in your spot, hide pulled tight, eyes heavy but unable to close completely. Your shoulder throbs in rhythm with your heartbeat, a steady pulse of pain that reminds you you're still injured, still vulnerable, still just barely holding it together. Welcome to being Homo heidelbergensis. Every day is a fight. Every night is a gamble. And you're just hoping to wake up one more time. When morning finally comes, it's not with relief. It's with exhaustion. Nobody slept. The fire burned through an enormous amount of wood, kept deliberately bright and aggressive all night as a keep-out sign for anything with teeth. Your eyes are gritty, your body aches in new and creative ways, and the shoulder injury has progressed from annoying to legitimately concerning. It's hot, swollen, and there's a red streak running down your arm that probably means nothing good. The group emerges from the shelter slowly, cautiously, checking for signs of the bear or other predators that might have lingered nearby. The morning is gray, overcast, with a cold wind that cuts right through your hide clothing. It smells like rain coming, which is just perfect. Because what this situation really needs is cold, wet misery on top of the existing regular misery. Breakfast is leftover horse meat, cold now, the fat congealed into white chunks that stick to your teeth. It's not appetizing, but hunger doesn't care about appetizing. You chew mechanically, swallow, chew some more. Fuel, calories, keep the machine running. That's all food is at this point. The leader is assessing the group, looking at each person, probably calculating who's fit for what tasks today. His eyes linger on you, specifically on your shoulder, and you see him frown. He makes a gesture, a question. Can you work? You nod, even though the honest answer is barely, but admitting weakness isn't an option. Weak members get left behind. That's not a rule anyone says out loud, but everyone understands it. The plan for today is maintenance and gathering. The meat supply is decent for now, which buys time for other tasks. The shelter needs reinforcement, especially after last night's bear incident. More wood is needed. Always more wood. The fire is hungry, and feeding it is a full-time job. Tools need sharpening. Hides need processing. The list never ends. You're assigned to the gathering party, which is both a relief and an insult. Relief because gathering is less physically demanding than hunting. Insult because it means the leader doesn't think you're capable of the harder tasks right now. Your ego, such as it is, takes a small hit. But survival trumps ego every time, so you accept the assignment without complaint. The gathering party consists of you and 3 others, mostly women, and 1 younger male who's still learning the ropes. You grab a woven basket, actually more of a rough bag made from twisted plant fibers, and head out. The goal is to find anything edible: roots, tubers, nuts, berries, edible plants, bird eggs if you're lucky. It's not glamorous work, but it's essential. Gathered food makes up a significant portion of the diet, supplementing the meat when hunting is unsuccessful. The sky is getting darker, clouds rolling in thick and heavy. The rain is definitely coming. You need to work fast, gather what you can, and get back before the weather turns. Rain means getting soaked, and getting soaked means getting cold, and getting cold means potentially dying from exposure. The chain of consequences is always there, always lurking. You head toward a stream about 20 minutes' walk from the shelter. There are usually edible plants growing along the banks, and the area is relatively open, making it harder for predators to ambush you. The group moves quickly, eyes constantly scanning, communicating with hand signals and the occasional grunt. Words are still emerging, still taking shape, but gestures are universal and instant. The stream is flowing fast, swollen from recent snowmelt upstream. The water is crystal clear, painfully cold, and you can see smooth stones on the bottom, along with the occasional fish darting through the current. Fishing is possible but difficult without proper tools. Maybe someone will work on fish traps later. Another task for the endless to-do list. You start searching along the bank, looking for the familiar broad leaves of a particular plant whose roots are starchy and filling when cooked. Your eyes have been trained since childhood to recognize food sources, to distinguish between safe to eat and will kill you horribly. There's no room for error. Trial and error with poisonous plants is a very quick way to become a cautionary tale. You find a promising patch and kneel down, using your hand axe to dig carefully around the roots. The ground is cold and damp, and mud gets under your fingernails, mixing with the dried blood still caked there from yesterday's hunt. Your hands are a disaster by modern standards. Scarred, calloused, dirty, with broken nails and permanent staining from various substances. But they work. They're functional. That's all that matters. The root comes free, and it's a good one. Thick, healthy, probably as long as your forearm. You shake off the excess dirt and drop it in your basket. One down. You need dozens more to make the trip worthwhile. You keep digging. Around you, the others are doing the same, working methodically through the area. One of the women finds a cluster of early spring shoots and makes an excited sound, waving the others over. Everyone converges to harvest the find, working together to maximize the yield. This is cooperation at its most basic, but it's effective. More eyes, more hands, more food collected. While you work, there's communication happening. Not conversation in the modern sense, but exchanges of information. Grunts and gestures that convey meaning. Look here. Good find. Watch out for that. The young male tries to say something more complex, stringing together several sounds in sequence, and it comes out garbled, uncertain. You understand the general idea, though. He's asking about something, maybe about whether a particular plant is safe. One of the women responds, using gestures and a few clear sounds. Yes, safe, eat. He nods, understanding. This is language in progress. You're witnessing and participating in the development of human communication. It's clumsy, inefficient, but it's happening. Your species is figuring out that shared knowledge is survival, and the best way to share knowledge is through sound and symbol. Give it another 750,000 years, and you'll have Shakespeare. But right now, you've got food good and danger bad, and honestly, that covers most of what you need. Your shoulder is killing you. The digging motion pulls at the injury, and each time you raise your arm, there's a sharp spike of pain that makes you wince. You try to compensate, using your other arm more, but it throws off your balance and makes the work harder. Sweat is beading on your forehead despite the cold, and you realize you might be running a fever. Infection is setting in. Great. Just great. You take a break, sitting back on your heels, breathing hard. One of the women notices and comes over. She examines your shoulder without asking permission, because personal boundaries are a luxury you can't afford. She presses on the swollen area, and you nearly bite through your tongue to avoid crying out. She makes a sound, concerned, disapproving. Then she does something unexpected. She bites her own lip hard enough to draw blood, then spits the blood onto her fingers and rubs it on your wound. You have no idea what this is supposed to accomplish. Maybe it's medicinal, maybe it's ritualistic, maybe it's both. Blood has significance in your culture, represents life force, connection, healing. The logic doesn't matter. What matters is that someone cares enough to try. She pats your good shoulder, makes a reassuring sound, and goes back to gathering. You sit there for another moment, processing, then force yourself back to work. You're maybe halfway through filling your basket when the first drops of rain start falling. They're big, heavy drops that hit with surprising force, and within seconds, the light drizzle turns into a downpour. The sky opens up, dumping water like someone's pouring buckets from the clouds. This is not gentle spring rain. This is cold, driving, miserable rain that soaks through your hide clothing almost immediately. The gathering party makes a quick decision. Head back. You've got enough to make the trip worthwhile, and staying out in this weather is asking for trouble. Everyone grabs their baskets and starts moving, heads down against the wind, following the familiar path back to the shelter. The ground turns to mud almost instantly. Your feet slip with each step, and walking becomes a treacherous balancing act. The basket of roots is heavy, made heavier by the water soaking into the plant fibers. Your shoulder is screaming, but you can't drop the load. This food is too important. You grit your teeth and keep moving. Lightning cracks across the sky, followed by thunder so loud it feels like it's coming from inside your chest. The group flinches, instinctively hunching lower. Thunder is terrifying when you don't understand what causes it. It sounds like the sky is breaking, like the world itself is being torn apart. Some in your group believe it's the anger of some great spirit or force. You don't know what to believe, but you know you want to get inside, away from the open sky, right now. The rain is so heavy you can barely see more than a few feet in front of you. The path is there, somewhere, but it's hard to follow. You're navigating by memory and instinct, hoping you're going the right direction. Getting lost in weather like this is a death sentence. You stay close to the person in front of you, reaching out occasionally to touch their back, making sure you're still together. Water is running down your face, getting in your eyes, your nose, your mouth. Your hair is plastered to your skull. The hide clothing is completely saturated, clinging to your body and providing zero warmth. You're shivering violently, your teeth chattering so hard you're worried you might crack one. Hypothermia is a real threat now. Your body temperature is dropping, and fast. Finally, you see the shelter ahead. The entrance is barely visible through the rain, but it's there. The sight gives you a burst of energy, and you stumble the last few yards, practically falling through the entrance. Inside, it's dry, relatively warm, and the fire is still burning thanks to whoever was on duty. You've never been so grateful for fire in your life. The gathering party collapses inside, dropping their baskets, gasping for air. Everyone is soaked, shivering, looking like drowned rats. But you made it back. you survived. Again. The roots are wet but intact, and once they're dried out, they'll be perfectly fine to cook. Success, sort of. Someone throws more wood on the fire, building it up. You crowd around it along with everyone else, hands outstretched, trying to absorb as much heat as possible. Steam rises from your clothing as the water starts to evaporate. The smell is pretty rank, a combination of wet leather, wood smoke, and unwashed bodies. But nobody cares. Warmth is more important than scent. Your shoulder is throbbing worse than ever. The cold and wet have aggravated the injury, and now it feels like there's a hot coal buried under your skin. You're shivering, but not just from the cold anymore. You're definitely feverish. The infection is spreading, and your body is fighting it the only way it knows how, with inflammation and heat. The healer woman sees you and immediately starts fussing. She pushes you closer to the fire, strips off your wet hide clothing, with no regard for modesty, because modesty isn't really a thing when everyone's fighting to stay alive. She wraps you in a dry hide, relatively speaking, and makes you lie down near the fire. Then she disappears, rummaging through her collection of plants and natural materials. She comes back with a poultice of some kind. It smells terrible, like rotting vegetation mixed with something sharp and astringent. She packs it directly into the wound, and the pain is so intense your vision goes white for a second. You make a sound that might be a scream or might be a whimper. She doesn't stop. She keeps packing the poultice in, then wraps the whole thing with a strip of soft hide, tying it tight to keep pressure on the wound. Is this going to work? You have no idea. Medicine is guesswork at this point, a combination of observation, tradition, and hope. Sometimes people survive infections. Sometimes they don't. You've seen both outcomes. Now you're just praying, to whatever spirits or forces might be listening, that you end up in the survival column. The rest of the day is a blur. You drift in and out of consciousness, never fully asleep, but never fully awake either. The fever has you in its grip, and your body is a battleground. Immune cells you don't know you have are fighting bacteria you can't see, and all you experience is heat, pain, and confusion. At some point, someone makes you drink water. You don't remember who. The water tastes weird, bitter, like it has herbs mixed in. Maybe the healer added something. Maybe you're hallucinating. You drink it anyway because your throat is parched and your tongue feels like leather. You dream, or maybe you're awake and just seeing things. Images flash through your mind. The horse falling, the cave lion watching, the bear at the entrance. Faces of people who are dead. People from your childhood who didn't survive to adulthood. Your mother, maybe. You think that was your mother. She's saying something, making sounds you almost understand. But then she fades away, and you're left staring at the cave ceiling. The fire creates dancing shadows on the rock walls, shapes that morph and shift. You watch them, mesmerized, seeing patterns that might be meaningful or might be random. Your brain is trying to make sense of sensory input while running at 104 degrees. It's not doing a great job. Someone is chanting, a rhythmic series of sounds that might be prayer or might be storytelling. You can't tell. The sounds wash over you, mixing with the crackle of the fire, the drumming of rain on the rocks outside, the breathing of others nearby. It all blends together into a kind of audio soup that's oddly soothing. You're aware, distantly, that people are worried about you. They keep checking on you, touching your forehead, adjusting the hide covering you, adding wood to the fire to keep it hot. This level of care is unusual. It means you're valued, important to the group's survival. If you were weak or useless, they'd probably just let you die and save the resources for someone more viable. Harsh, but that's reality. At some point deep in the night, your fever breaks. You don't know what time it is, have no concept of hours or minutes, but you suddenly feel the temperature drop. Sweat pours off you, soaking the hide you're wrapped in. Your shoulder still hurts, but it's a different kind of pain. Less burning, more dull ache. The infection hasn't killed you. Not yet, anyway. You fall into real sleep then, deep and dreamless. Your body, exhausted from fighting, finally shuts down to focus all energy on healing. You don't hear the rain stop. You don't hear the morning sounds of the group waking up, stirring, starting another day. You're out cold, and your body is doing the intensive repair work that might just save your life. You wake up to daylight filtering through the shelter entrance. Not the weak gray light of yesterday, but actual sunlight. The storm has passed, leaving behind a world that's washed clean and somehow brighter. You blink, confused, trying to orient yourself. How long were you out? Sitting up is an effort. Your whole body feels like it's been beaten with rocks. But the fever is gone, and the shoulder, while still tender, doesn't feel like it's about to explode anymore. You reach up carefully to touch the poultice, and it's still in place, dried now, but holding together. Whatever the healer put in there seems to have worked. Or your immune system is just a badass. Probably both. The shelter is mostly empty. Most of the group is outside, taking advantage of the clear weather to work on various tasks. You can hear voices, the sounds of stone tools on wood, children playing, normal sounds, life continuing despite yesterday's drama. You stand up slowly, testing your balance. A little wobbly, but functional. Your stomach is growling aggressively, reminding you that you haven't eaten anything substantial in over a day. Food sounds like an amazing idea. You shuffle toward the fire, where there's usually something available, and find a section of cooked root from yesterday's gathering. It's cold, a bit charred, but you eat it anyway, barely chewing before swallowing. The healer appears beside you, seemingly from nowhere. She examines your shoulder, unwrapping the poultice to check the wound. You hold your breath, not sure what she's going to find. She prods at the injury, and while it hurts, it's bearable. The red streak is fading. The swelling is down. She makes a satisfied sound, nods, and applies a fresh poultice before rewrapping it. Then she hands you more of that bitter herb water. You drink it without complaint. Outside, you can see the aftermath of the storm. Branches down, puddles everywhere, mud coating everything. But the sun is shining, and that makes all the difference. The group is working with renewed energy, clearly relieved to have decent weather for once. You want to help, to contribute, but the healer makes a sharp gesture. Rest, stay, heal. You're not cleared for duty yet. So you sit, just sit, watching the others work, feeling simultaneously useless and grateful. This is vulnerability. This is depending on others for survival, because you temporarily can't carry your own weight. It's uncomfortable, humbling, but it's also proof that your species is evolving something special. Empathy, cooperation, social bonds that go beyond immediate transactional benefit. One of the kids runs up to you, a little boy, maybe 4 years old. He's holding something in his grubby hands, offering it to you with a gap-toothed grin. You take it, curious. It's a rock, smooth and round, probably from the stream. Nothing special, objectively, but the gesture matters. He's giving you something because you're hurt, and gifts make people feel better. That's sophisticated emotional intelligence for a 4-year-old. You make an appreciative sound, and he beams before running off to terrorize someone else. You turn the rock over in your hands, feeling its weight, its smoothness. Without really thinking about it, you notice it fits perfectly in your palm. Good throwing weight. Could be useful for hunting small game or defending against smaller predators. Your brain is always assessing, always evaluating resources, but you tuck it into your belt anyway, keeping it. Not because it's useful, but because it was a gift. That's new. That's human in a way that goes beyond survival. By midday, you're feeling restless. Sitting around isn't in your DNA, metaphorically speaking. You need to be doing something, contributing somehow. Since physical labor is out, you decide to work on tools. Always need more tools, and stone napping is something you can do while seated. You gather your materials, a large piece of flint, a hammerstone, and a softer stone for more delicate flaking. Tool making is an art form, one you've been practicing since childhood. It requires patience, precision, and a deep understanding of how stone fractures. One wrong hit, and you've got a useless chunk of rock instead of a sharp blade. You start with the hammerstone, striking the flint at careful angles, removing large flakes to create the basic shape. Each strike produces a sharp crack that echoes slightly in the shelter. It's rhythmic, almost meditative. Strike, assess, rotate, strike again. The flint slowly transforms from irregular chunk to recognizable tool. Others notice what you're doing. Tool making is respected work, requires skill that not everyone has. A couple of people drift over to watch, including the young male from yesterday's gathering party. He's interested, eager to learn. You make a gesture, inviting him to sit. Teaching is another thing that's emerging in your species. The intentional transfer of knowledge from one generation to the next. You show him the basics, demonstrating the angle, the force, the way to read the stone and predict how it will break. He tries, hits too hard, and the flake goes shooting off in the wrong direction. You shake your head, make a corrective gesture. Less force, more control. He tries again, and this time it's better. Not perfect, but better. You grunt approval, and his face lights up. Positive reinforcement, another sophisticated social behavior. While you work, you're aware of language happening around you. People talking, sharing information, making plans. The sounds are still rough, still developing, but there's definitely structure emerging. Specific sounds reliably mean specific things. Word order is starting to matter. Grammar is being born, slowly, painfully, one confused sentence at a time. You try to join in, to add your thoughts to a discussion about tomorrow's planned hunt. The words catch in your throat, come out wrong, have to be repeated. Your voice trembles with the effort of producing the right sounds in the right order. It's frustrating. You have complex thoughts, ideas about strategy and tactics, but the tools to express them are still being invented. So you fall back on gestures, augmenting the inadequate words with hand signals that everyone understands. The young male asks you something, a combination of sounds and gestures. You think he's asking about the hunt, whether he'll be included. You consider, then respond. Probably yes, if the leader agrees. He needs the experience. Everyone has to learn. He looks nervous and excited at the same time. You remember that feeling. Your first real hunt, the terror and exhilaration mixed together. You reach out and pat his shoulder, the universal gesture of encouragement. He'll be fine. Probably. Maybe. Hopefully. The tool you're working on is coming together nicely. It's going to be a hand axe, multi-purpose, useful for everything from butchering to cutting to defense. The edge is sharp enough to cut skin with barely any pressure. You test it carefully on a piece of leather, and it slices through cleanly. Good. You set it aside and start on another one. The group can always use more tools. As the sun starts to set, painting the sky in those dramatic oranges and reds that would make for great Instagram photos if Instagram existed, the group gathers around the fire for the evening meal. It's more gathered roots and some remaining horse meat, rationed carefully to make it last. The hunting party will go out again tomorrow, hopefully with success. But for tonight, this is what there is. You eat slowly, savoring each bite, partly because chewing is required, and partly because you're still recovering and your appetite hasn't fully returned. The food sits heavy in your stomach, but it's good heavy, nourishing. Your body is converting it into fuel for healing, for maintaining body temperature, for keeping you alive. After the meal, something interesting happens. One of the elders starts telling a story. You know it's a story because of the way he's using his voice, the dramatic pauses, the gestures that accompany the words. It's about a hunt, maybe a legendary one from before you were born, or maybe a mythologized version of something that happened last season. Hard to tell. The elder uses all the tools available to him: voice, gesture, even drawing in the dirt with a stick to illustrate. He's describing a massive beast, something big enough to feed the group for weeks. The hunters surrounded it, worked together, and after a long and dangerous battle, brought it down. Everyone ate well. There was celebration. It was good. The group is listening, rapt. The children are wide-eyed. Even the adults who've probably heard this story dozens of times are engaged. This is entertainment, education, cultural transmission, and social bonding all rolled into one. This is why language evolved. Not just for practical communication like danger behind you, but for this, for story, for the human need to make meaning out of chaos. When the story ends, there's a moment of silence, then appreciative sounds from the audience. Someone starts that rhythmic chanting again, and others join in. It's becoming a song, maybe, or at least the prototype of one. The rhythm is compelling, and you find yourself swaying slightly to the beat. Music is emerging from the same place as language, from the same need to communicate, to connect, to be part of something larger than yourself. You try to join the chanting, adding your voice to the chorus. It's easier than trying to form individual words. The rhythm carries you, and for a few minutes, you're not worried about infected shoulders or predators or where the next meal is coming from. You're just part of the group, making sound together, and it feels right in a way you can't explain. The young male is sitting next to you, and he's chanting too, his voice cracking occasionally because he's still figuring out how his vocal cords work. You remember being his age, that awkward phase where your body is changing and nothing feels quite right. He catches you looking and grins, self-conscious but happy. You grin back. Shared moment. Human connection. That's worth more than any amount of meat. As the evening wears on and the fire burns lower, people start settling in for sleep. The routine is familiar now. Find your spot. Arrange your hide bedding. Position yourself close enough to the fire for warmth, but not so close you'll get burned. The kids curl up with their mothers. The elders huddle together, sharing body heat. You claim your usual spot, wrapping yourself carefully to protect the injured shoulder. Before you close your eyes, you look around at the group. These people, your people, 20 humans, give or take, trying to survive in a world that's actively hostile to their existence. You're not related to all of them, but you might as well be. You're bound together by necessity, by shared struggle, by the simple fact that alone you'd all be dead. Tomorrow will bring new challenges. More hunting, more gathering, more predators, more weather, more opportunities to get injured or killed. But tonight, you're warm, fed, and alive. Your shoulder is healing. The group is intact. The fire is burning. By the standards of 800,000 years ago, that's a pretty good day. Chapter 18. The next hunt morning comes too soon, as it always does. Your shoulder is better, noticeably so, but still tender when you move it the wrong way. The healer checks it again, makes her approving grunt, and finally gives you the nod. You're cleared for light duty. Which in this context means you can join the hunt, but you're not expected to do the heavy lifting. Fair enough. You'll take what you can get. The hunting party assembles after a quick breakfast of leftover roots. The leader is there, of course, along with 4 other experienced hunters, and, surprisingly, the young male from yesterday. He looks terrified and excited in equal measure, gripping his spear like it's the only solid thing in a shifting world. You catch his eye and give him an encouraging nod. He tries to smile, but it comes out more like a grimace. You remember that feeling. First hunt is always intense. The group heads out into a cool, clear morning. The storm has left everything feeling fresh, washed clean, and the air has that sharp quality that makes your lungs feel larger. Animal tracks are everywhere in the mud, clear and easy to read. Deer, horse, something large that might be bison. The leader studies them, makes a decision, and points toward the northeast. Bison. Big risk, big reward. You're going hunting megafauna today. The trek takes hours. You're following a trail of prints and droppings, moving quietly, staying downwind. The young male is doing his best to mimic the experienced hunters, placing his feet carefully, avoiding branches that might snap. He's learning. Everyone has to start somewhere, and at least he's not making rookie mistakes that would scare off every animal within a mile radius. Around midday, you spot them. A small herd of bison, maybe 8 or 9 animals, grazing in an open meadow. They're enormous, shaggy, with curved horns that could gut a person in one quick motion. These are not animals you can take down alone. This requires perfect coordination, timing, and a lot of luck. One mistake, and someone's getting trampled, gored, or both. The leader starts directing everyone into position using hand signals. No sounds, no words, just precise gestures that convey the entire plan. You're placed on the flank with the young male, responsible for cutting off escape routes. Others will do the actual spearing. Your job is to herd, to control movement, to make sure the target runs the right direction. It's important work, even if it's not glamorous. Everyone waits, watching. The bison are still grazing, completely unaware they're being hunted. The wind is in your favor, carrying your scent away from them. The sun is warm on your back. Everything is peaceful, calm, quiet. Then the leader makes his move. He rises from cover and throws his spear in one fluid motion. The weapon flies true, sinking into the shoulder of a large female. She bellows, a sound that's part pain and part rage, and the herd explodes into motion. They're running, hooves pounding the ground like thunder, and the earth literally shakes under their weight. You and the young male run out from your hiding spot, screaming at the top of your lungs, waving your spears. creating as much noise and chaos as possible. The goal is to turn the herd, to separate the injured female from the group. It's working. She's lagging behind, blood streaming from the wound, and the rest of the herd is veering away from your noise. Another hunter gets in a good shot, a spear to the ribs that makes the bison stumble. She's still on her feet, but weakening fast. The group is closing in, keeping pressure on, waiting for the moment she goes down. The young male is right there in the mix, and you keep one eye on him, making sure he doesn't do anything stupid that gets him killed on his first hunt. The bison finally collapses, legs folding under her massive weight. She hits the ground with a thud that you feel in your bones, and for a moment she's still trying to get up, head thrashing, eyes wild with panic. The leader moves in with his hand axe and delivers the killing blow to the base of her skull. It takes 2 strikes. She goes still. The hunt is over. The entire group stands there for a moment, breathing hard, covered in sweat despite the cool air. The young male looks like he might throw up or cry or both. His first kill. You walk over and put a hand on his shoulder. He looks at you, and you can see everything in his face. Relief, horror, exhilaration, guilt. You nod. Yeah, that's hunting. That's what it takes to survive. He'll get used to it, or he won't make it. Those are the options. The celebration is brief because, as always, predators are an immediate concern. The smell of blood is like a dinner bell for every carnivore in the area. The butchering begins immediately. Everyone works together, using stone tools to cut through the thick hide, exposing the meat underneath. It's hot, steaming, and the smell is overwhelming in its intensity. The bison is huge, which means there's too much meat to carry back in one trip. The group has to make decisions. Take the choice cuts now, come back for more later if it's safe. The organs come out first, the heart and liver getting special treatment, because they're packed with nutrients. The leader takes a bite of raw liver, blood running down his chin, then passes it around. Everyone takes a piece. Ritual, nutrition, unity. It's all happening at once. Your shoulder is aching from the exertion of the hunt, but you ignore it and keep working. You're cutting away long strips of meat from the hindquarter, laying them across a section of hide that will be bundled up and carried. The young male is working next to you, and you show him the best way to cut, how to separate meat from connective tissue, how to avoid dulling your blade on bone. Teaching again, passing knowledge forward. The journey back to the shelter takes most of the remaining daylight. Everyone is loaded down with meat, struggling under the weight, but refusing to leave any behind. This is food security for days, maybe a week if it's preserved properly. This is survival. This is what makes the risk, the danger, the constant threat of death worth it. When the hunting party finally arrives back at camp, they're greeted with excited sounds from the rest of the group. Kids run up, poking at the meat, asking a million questions in their limited vocabulary. The elders are nodding approval, already making plans for preservation. Some of the meat will be cooked immediately, some will be dried over the fire, some will be buried in the cold ground to keep it from spoiling. Nothing will be wasted. Can't afford to waste anything. That night, the group feasts. And when I say feast, I mean they eat until they're physically uncomfortable because who knows when the next big kill will happen. The bison meat is rich, fatty, delicious in that primal way that makes every cell in your body say, yes, this, more of this. You eat piece after piece, grease running down your hands, your face, not caring about manners because manners are a luxury for people who aren't constantly on the edge of starvation. The young male is eating with the same intensity, and between bites, he's grinning like an idiot. He survived his first hunt. He contributed. He's proven himself. The other hunters are treating him differently now, with a kind of respect that wasn't there before. He's earned his place. That matters more than the meat, even, though the meat is pretty great. Around the fire, the atmosphere is celebratory. People are louder than usual, more animated. Someone starts that rhythmic chanting again, and it builds into something more complex, more structured. Call and response is happening, with one person leading and others echoing back. This is music becoming more sophisticated in real time. This is culture evolving. You join in, your voice blending with the others, and for once it doesn't tremble as much. Maybe practice is helping. Maybe the structures of language are solidifying in your brain. Maybe you're just relaxed from the successful hunt and the full stomach. Whatever the reason, the sounds come easier, flow better. You're communicating not just information, but emotion, and everyone understands. One of the women gets up and starts moving to the rhythm, swaying, stepping in patterns that might be the earliest form of dance. Others join her. The young male tries, looks ridiculous, and everyone laughs. But it's good-natured laughing, inclusive, and he laughs too. This is what separates humans from other animals. Not just the tools or the fire or the language, but this, joy, play. The ability to find moments of happiness in a brutal world. You're watching all of this, full and warm and tired, and you feel something that might be contentment, maybe even happiness. Your shoulder still hurts. You'll probably wake up sore tomorrow, and the cycle of survival will start all over again. But right now, in this moment, things are good. Your people are safe. There's food. There's fire. There's laughter. That's enough. The celebration continues late into the night. Eventually, though, exhaustion wins. People start dropping off, finding their sleeping spots, curling up under hides. The fire is built up one last time, and a guard is posted. The young male volunteers, still too amped up to sleep. The leader nods approval and hands him a spear. Watch. Warn if danger comes. Don't let the fire die. The young male takes the responsibility seriously, settling in near the entrance with his weapon across his knees. You find your spot, wrap yourself in your hide, and close your eyes. Sleep comes fast, deep, and dreamless. Your body needs rest to recover from the day's exertion, and for once, you're safe enough to actually get it. The sounds of the shelter fade into background noise, the crackle of fire, the breathing of others, the occasional snore. It's familiar, comforting in its way. This is home. This is family. This is everything. The next day is relatively calm. Not a rest day exactly, because those don't really exist, but a day where the urgency is lower. There's meat to preserve, hides to process, tools to maintain, but no immediate crisis. The weather is holding, cool but clear, and that makes everything easier. You spend most of the day working on the bison hide. It needs to be scraped clean of fat and flesh, then stretched and dried. It's tedious, repetitive work that requires patience, but not much physical strength, which is perfect for your still-healing shoulder. You work methodically, using your stone scraper to remove every bit of tissue from the skin. If you miss spots, the hide will rot. Can't have that. This hide will become clothing, bedding, containers, too valuable to mess up. While you work, you're surrounded by others doing similar tasks. The women are processing some of the bison meat, cutting it into thin strips that will be hung over the fire to smoke and dry. Preserved meat can last for weeks, even months if done right. It's insurance against lean times. The kids are supposed to be helping but are mostly playing, chasing each other around the shelter, making noise. Nobody stops them. Let kids be kids while they can. They'll grow up fast enough. The healer comes by to check your shoulder again. She's become almost obsessive about it, checking multiple times a day. You let her unwrap the poultice and examine the wound. It's healing well, clean edges, no sign of infection. She makes a satisfied sound and applies fresh herbs before rewrapping it. Then she pats your head like you're a child and moves on to check other people. She's the closest thing the group has to a doctor, and she takes the role seriously. Around midday, there's a commotion at the shelter entrance. Everyone looks up, hands moving instinctively toward weapons. But it's not danger. It's another group of Homo heidelbergensis, 4 of them, approaching cautiously. This is a big deal. Encounters with other groups can go either way: peaceful trade or violent conflict. Everything depends on the first few seconds. The leader of your group steps forward, making himself visible but keeping his spear lowered. Non-threatening, but ready. The leader of the other group does the same. There's a tense moment where everyone's trying to read the situation. Then the other leader makes a gesture. Open hands, palms up. Peace. Trade. Your leader responds in kind. The tension drops a notch. The 2 groups negotiate through a combination of gestures and those limited words you all share. The visitors have flint, good quality, from a source your group doesn't have access to. Your group has meat, fresh kill, more than you can eat. A trade makes sense for everyone. Flint for meat. Both leaders agree, and the exchange happens. But it's not just transactional. The groups spend time together, sharing the fire, eating, making sounds at each other that might be conversation or might be storytelling or might be just the comfort of human connection. You notice the visitors speak differently, use sounds your group doesn't use, combine words in unfamiliar patterns, dialectic differences, languages diverging, or maybe converging as ideas get shared. It's hard to tell which direction evolution is moving at any given moment. One of the visitors is around your age, and he approaches you while you're working on the hide. He examines your work, nods approval, then shows you a technique he uses for scraping that's slightly different from yours. You try it. It works pretty well, maybe even better than your method. You show him how you sharpen your scraper to maintain the edge. Exchange of knowledge. This is how technology spreads, person to person, group to group, slowly expanding the collective understanding of what's possible. The visitors stay for a few hours, and during that time, you learn things. Not through words exactly, but through observation and gesture and those limited linguistic exchanges. They came from the east, from territory beyond the river that your group rarely crosses. They've seen herds of horse moving south, following the grass. They've encountered a cave lion pride in one of the valleys, a warning to avoid that area. Information is currency, valuable as any physical goods. There's a woman in the visiting group who's pregnant, visibly so, her belly round under her hide clothing. The women from your group crowd around her, touching her belly, making excited sounds. Babies are rare enough to be remarkable. High infant mortality, dangerous childbirth. The constant threats of the environment mean that every pregnancy is both celebrated and worried over. This woman looks healthy, though, strong, and the others seem optimistic about her chances. The pregnant woman and the healer Start having what looks like an intense conversation, combining gestures with words, comparing notes on pregnancy care. The healer indicates certain plants, mimes eating them. The pregnant woman nods, understanding. She's being given medical advice from someone with experience, knowledge that could save her life, or her baby's life. This is healthcare, primitive but genuine, one expert sharing wisdom with someone who needs it. The young male from your group is fascinated by the visitors, asking questions, trying to communicate. One of the visitors is teaching him a new sound, a word that might mean good hunt, or might mean thank you, or might mean something else entirely. The young male practices it, gets it wrong, tries again. The visitor laughs, but not meanly, and corrects him. Third try, he gets it right. Both of them look pleased. Language is being transmitted, word by word, concept by concept. Eventually, the visitors prepare to leave. They've got their meat, your group has the flint, and staying longer doesn't make sense for either party. Resources are limited, and two groups in one area put strain on the local food supply. The leaders exchange gestures that look like farewells or promises to meet again. Maybe they will. Maybe they won't. Survival is unpredictable. As the visitors head out, walking east toward their territory, you watch them go and feel something complicated. Sadness, maybe, that the connection is ending. Or loneliness, the awareness that your group, while everything to you, is just one small cluster of humans in a vast, hostile world. Or maybe just curiosity about what's beyond the familiar territory. What else is out there? You'll probably never know. Travel is dangerous, and there's no reason to leave an area that's providing adequate resources. You go back to work on the hide, but your mind keeps wandering to the encounter. The differences and similarities between the groups. The shared humanity. The shared struggle. The fact that somewhere, not too far away, there are others facing the same challenges, solving the same problems, developing the same emerging technologies of language and culture and society. You're not alone. Your species is not alone. That's comforting in a way you can't fully articulate. That evening, sitting by the fire after another meal of bison meat and roots, you find yourself thinking. Not in the modern sense of abstract philosophical contemplation, but in whatever way your developing brain allows for reflection. You're aware of your own existence, aware of others, aware that there's a past and presumably a future. That's sophisticated cognition, the foundation of everything that makes humans unique. You look at the fire, watching the flames dance and shift. Fire is magic, in a way. It's dangerous, destructive, but also life-giving, protective. You've grown up with fire, but there's still something mysterious about it. It consumes wood and gives off heat and light. It keeps predators away. It transforms raw meat into something more digestible. It's essential. You can't imagine life without it, even though somewhere in the distant past, your ancestors lived without it. The group around you is settling into evening routines. Kids being tucked in by mothers. Elders muttering among themselves, probably complaining about joint pain or reminiscing about hunts from decades ago. Young adults like you and the young male doing maintenance tasks or just staring into the fire, lost in thought. This is community. This is civilization in its earliest form. Everyone has a role. Everyone matters. The group only functions if everyone contributes. You think about the hunt, the bison falling, the moment of its death. There's something profound there, something about the transfer of energy from one life to another. The bison lived, ate grass, converted sunlight into flesh and bone. Now that flesh and bone are being converted into human life, human energy, human survival. The cycle continues. It's neither good nor bad, just necessary. The universe operates on these transfers, these transformations. You're part of that system, no different from the bison, or the grass, or the sun. Your shoulder twinges, reminding you of your injury, your vulnerability. You could have died from that infection. You still might die from the next one, or from a hunting accident, or from a predator attack, or from any number of other causes. Death is always close, always present. But right now, you're alive. Your heart is beating. Your lungs are breathing. Your brain is processing these thoughts. That's something. That's everything, actually. The young male sits down next to you. He's quiet for a moment, then makes a sound, a question. You're not entirely sure what he's asking, but you think it's something like, "What are you thinking?" You try to answer, combining gestures with words, explaining in your limited way about the fire, the hunt, the cycle of life and death. He listens, nods, maybe understands, maybe doesn't. But he's engaged, present, sharing this moment with you. He tries to express something of his own, stumbling over the words, voice trembling with effort. You think he's talking about fear, about how scared he was during the hunt, but how he pushed through it. Or maybe he's talking about pride, about accomplishment, about becoming a man in the eyes of the group. Language is imprecise, frustrating, but the intent comes through. You understand enough. You pat his shoulder, make an affirming sound. He did good. He'll continue to do good. That's the path forward. Later that night, it's your turn for fire duty. You're awake while everyone else sleeps, responsible for keeping the flames going and watching for threats. It's lonely, tedious work, but it's important. You sit near the entrance, spear across your lap, feeding small branches into the fire every few minutes. The flames respond, flickering higher, casting moving shadows across the cave walls. The night outside is clear, stars brilliant in the unpolluted sky. You can see the Milky Way stretched across the darkness, a river of light that you have no name for but find beautiful anyway. Somewhere in your developing mind, you register beauty. Not in an aesthetic philosophical sense, but in a visceral, emotional way. The sky looks good. Looking at it makes you feel something pleasant. That's enough. Hours pass. Nothing happens, which is good. Boring is good. You'd take boring over exciting any day, because exciting usually means danger. You're warm by the fire, fed, comfortable enough. Your shoulder doesn't hurt as much tonight. The healing continues. Your body is resilient, tougher than you give it credit for. It's been through worse and survived. It'll keep surviving as long as you're careful and lucky. You think about tomorrow. More work on the hide, probably. Maybe another gathering trip if the weather holds. The meat supply is good for now, so maybe no hunting for a few days. That's a relief. Your body needs rest, time to fully recover before the next major physical challenge. The cycle of exertion and recovery, hunting and gathering, danger and safety. That's life. That's all it's ever been. A sound outside makes you alert immediately. You grab your spear, standing up, eyes scanning the darkness beyond the fire's light. There, movement in the shadows. Your heart rate spikes. You make a warning sound, loud enough to wake the light sleepers without full-on panicking everyone. Several people sit up, reaching for weapons. The movement resolves into a rabbit, just a rabbit, hopping across the open ground, completely oblivious to the terror it just caused. You lower your spear, exhale, false alarm. A few people grumble, lying back down. You sit back down too, adrenaline still pumping. Even prey animals can scare you when you're on edge. That's the reality of living in a world where everything is a potential threat. The rest of your watch passes without incident. As dawn approaches, the sky starts to lighten, going from black to deep blue to gray. Birds begin their morning calls, those familiar sounds that signal a new day. Your shift is over. Someone else takes over fire duty, and you can finally sleep. You find your spot, collapse onto the hide bedding, and you're out within seconds. Deep, exhausted sleep. Your body shuts down, taking advantage of the safety to perform critical maintenance. When you wake up, it'll be afternoon, and you'll have lost hours. But you'll be rested. That's worth the trade. You wake up in the afternoon to commotion. Not danger commotion, but activity commotion. People are moving with purpose, voices raised but not in alarm. You sit up, groggy, trying to figure out what's happening. Then you hear it. A woman screaming. Not the scream of pain from injury, but something different, more rhythmic, more primal. Someone's in labor. You're fully awake now. Childbirth is always a big deal, probably the biggest deal that doesn't involve immediate death from predators. It's dangerous for both mother and baby, and everyone knows it. The group has lost mothers, lost babies, lost both at the same time. But babies are also the future, the only way the group continues. So when someone goes into labor, everything else stops. This takes priority. The woman in labor is young, maybe her first pregnancy. She's being attended by the healer and 2 other experienced mothers who've successfully given birth before. They've set up a space near the fire, laid out hides for her to lie on, gathered what passes for medical supplies, soft moss for absorption, sharp stone tools for cutting the umbilical cord, herbs for pain that probably don't do much, but at least represent an attempt at relief. The laboring woman is on her hands and knees, rocking back and forth, making sounds that are somewhere between growls and screams. Sweat is pouring off her face. Her whole body is tense, every muscle engaged in the work of pushing a human out of another human. It's brutal to witness. You've seen hunts, seen injuries, seen death, but there's something uniquely intense about watching someone give birth. The healer is behind her, hands ready, speaking in those soft, soothing tones that seem universal across all cultures and time periods. Reassurance, encouragement. The other women are on either side, holding her up, letting her grip their arms so hard their skin is turning white under her fingers. No one complains. This is what community does. You support each other through the hardest moments because you know someday you'll need that support too. The labor goes on for hours. The sun sets, darkness falls, and still the woman is laboring. You can see the exhaustion setting in, her movements becoming less controlled, more desperate. There's fear in the air, unspoken but palpable. This is taking too long. That's not good. Complications mean death more often than not. There's no hospital, no cesarean section, no emergency medical intervention. There's just the healer's experience and luck. Lots of luck. Around midnight, something shifts. The healer makes an urgent sound, repositions herself. The woman lets out a scream that's different from all the others, louder, more raw. And then there's another sound. A new sound. A baby crying. High-pitched, angry, absolutely furious at being pulled from the warm darkness into this cold, bright world. But alive. The baby is alive. The group erupts in sounds of relief and celebration. The healer is working quickly, clearing the baby's airways, cutting the cord with a sharp flint blade, wiping away fluid. She holds the baby up in the firelight, and you can see it's a girl. Small, wrinkled, covered in blood and vernix, but moving, crying, functioning. The healer hands the baby to the mother, who's collapsed onto her side, tears streaming down her face. Relief, joy, exhaustion, probably some shock. All of it at once. The mother holds her daughter against her chest, and the baby instinctively finds a nipple and starts trying to nurse. It's clumsy, doesn't quite work at first, but the impulse is there. The mother is crying, making soft sounds, and you realize she's talking to the baby. Words, actual words, not just sounds. She's saying something that might be a name, or might be an endearment, or might just be, "You're here, you're alive. I love you." Language failing to capture the enormity of the moment, but trying anyway. The next few days revolve around the mother and baby. Everyone's protective, careful, making sure they're warm, fed, safe. The mother needs to recover from the trauma of childbirth, and the baby is so vulnerable, so fragile. The statistics are grim. Infant mortality is probably around 50%. Half of babies don't make it to their first birthday. Everyone knows this. Everyone's trying not to think about it. You find yourself watching the baby when you have spare moments. She's so tiny, so helpless. Can't walk, can't talk, can't even focus her eyes properly. Just eats, sleeps, cries, poops. Completely dependent on others for survival. And yet, everyone's invested in keeping her alive. The group's resources are being redirected to support this one small life. That's remarkable when you think about it. Altruism, cooperation, long-term thinking, all the things that make humans special. The mother is teaching the baby to nurse properly, and it's a learning process for both of them. There are no books, no lactation consultants, no online tutorials. Just instinct, observation, and help from other mothers who've been through this. The baby figures it out eventually, latching on and feeding with determination. Survival instinct kicking in immediately. She wants to live. That's universal. Your shoulder is almost healed now. The infection is gone, the wound is closed, and while there's some scarring and residual stiffness, you're basically functional again. The healer checks it one last time, nods satisfaction, and officially clears you for full duty. You're back to being a productive member of the group. That feels good, feels necessary. Sitting around was starting to make you anxious. The group decides to do a major gathering expedition. The meat supply is still decent, but variety is important. Bodies need more than just protein. You need carbohydrates, vitamins, minerals, all the stuff that comes from plants. The gathering party is large this time, maybe 10 people, enough to collect substantial quantities and defend against potential threats. You head out into territory that's a bit farther from camp than usual. The nearby areas have been pretty well harvested, and you need to expand the range. It's a calculated risk. New territory means new potential dangers, but it also means untapped resources. The math works out. Barely. The day is beautiful, unseasonably warm, with clear skies and a gentle breeze. The landscape is starting to green up as spring progresses. New grass is coming in. Trees are budding. Everything feels alive and growing. It's a stark contrast to the dead of winter, and everyone's mood is better because of it. Sunshine does wonders for morale, even 800,000 years ago. The gathering goes well. You find a massive patch of edible bulbs, more than you could harvest in a day. Everyone works steadily, digging them up, filling baskets. This is a significant find, enough to feed the group for over a week. The location gets memorized, marked mentally so you can return. These bulbs will keep coming back year after year if you don't overharvest. Sustainable resource management, figured out through trial and error over generations. While digging, one of the group finds something strange. She makes a sound, waving others over. You gather around to look. It's a tool, a hand axe, but not one any of you made. The style is slightly different. The stone is from a different source. It's old, too. You can tell by the wear patterns and the way the edge has dulled. Someone else made this, probably years ago, and left it here or lost it. Everyone examines the tool, passing it around, studying the craftsmanship. It's good work, maybe better than what your group typically produces. Whoever made this knew what they were doing. There's discussion, those limited words combined with extensive gestures, about where it came from. Maybe the group you met a few days ago. Maybe a different group entirely. Maybe someone long dead. The find is unsettling in a way you can't quite articulate. It's proof that others exist, have existed, are moving through the same landscape, using the same resources. You're not alone, but that's not entirely comforting. More people means more competition. It also means potential for conflict, though hopefully also potential for cooperation and trade, like what happened with the recent visitors. You keep gathering, but now everyone's more alert, watching for signs of other humans. Not in immediate fear, exactly, but with awareness. The world is bigger than your group, than your territory. There are others out there, living parallel lives, facing the same struggles, developing the same solutions. Your species is spreading, adapting, surviving. That's good for humanity in the long run. In the short run, it complicates things. The group heads back to camp in the late afternoon, loaded with bulbs and other gathered food. It's a successful day. Resources secured, no one injured, no dangerous encounters. You'll take that as a win. The found tool comes back with you, added to the group's collection. Maybe it'll be studied, copied, the techniques integrated into your own tool-making. Knowledge transfer, even across groups that never meet directly. Technology spreading through artifacts left behind. Back at camp, there's news. The baby is doing well, gaining weight, nursing successfully. The mother is recovering, able to move around more, starting to help with light tasks. Everyone's relieved. The odds of both surviving the first week were not great, but they're beating those odds. The group's population has increased by 1, the first time that's happened in over a year. Deaths have been more common than births lately. This is a rare piece of good news. That evening, the baby is passed around the group, everyone taking turns holding her, making soft sounds at her. She's too young to understand anything, but the social bonding is important. Everyone needs to feel invested in her survival, connected to her. She's not just the mother's baby, she's the group's baby. Collective responsibility. It takes a village, even 800,000 years ago. A few days later, the leader calls a group meeting. This is rare, usually things are decided informally or by the leader with minimal input. But major decisions, ones that affect everyone, require discussion. Everyone gathers around the fire, and the leader starts talking, combining words with extensive gestures to communicate his point. The area is becoming depleted. The nearby resources have been heavily harvested. Game is getting scarcer as animals move to better grazing areas, and the competition from other groups is increasing. It's time to migrate, to move to new territory. This happens every few years, sometimes more often. You're semi-nomadic, following resources, never staying in one place long enough to completely exhaust it. There's discussion, opinions being shared in that limited linguistic way. Some people are reluctant to leave. This shelter has been home, it's familiar, it's relatively safe. Moving means unknown dangers, the risk of not finding adequate resources, potential conflict with other groups whose territory you might be encroaching on. But staying means slow starvation, as the local food supply dwindles. The math is brutal, but clear. The decision is made. The group will migrate north, following the river valley where water is reliable and game tends to concentrate. It's not unmapped territory. Some of the elders remember being there years ago, but it's different enough to be uncertain. The move will happen in stages, scouting parties first to confirm resources and find suitable shelter, then the whole group following once a location is secured. You volunteer for the scouting party. Part of it is wanting to be useful, to contribute to this major undertaking. Part of it is curiosity, that emerging human trait of wanting to know what's over the next hill. You're selected along with 3 others, all experienced, all capable. The young male wants to come too, but he's deemed too inexperienced for something this important. He looks disappointed, but accepts the decision. The scouting party leaves the next morning, traveling light. Just weapons, a few tools, some dried meat for food. The goal is speed and stealth, not carrying heavy loads. You need to cover distance, assess the territory, and get back with information. The group's future depends on accurate scouting. The journey takes you through unfamiliar terrain. The river valley is beautiful in its way, wide and green with spring growth. You see herds of animals grazing, a good sign for future hunting. The river itself is full of fish, another food source your group could exploit with proper tools and techniques. The landscape looks promising. On the second day, you find it, a perfect shelter site. It's a large cave, south-facing for maximum sun exposure, high enough to be protected from flooding, with a clear view of the valley for spotting both game and threats. The entrance is narrow enough to defend but wide enough to accommodate the group. Inside, it's spacious, dry, with high ceilings that will allow smoke to rise without suffocating everyone. It's better than the current shelter, significantly better. The scouting party explores the surrounding area, checking for water sources, edible plants, animal trails, signs of other human groups. Everything checks out. This is viable. This is where the group should move. The decision is unanimous. You start the journey back to relay the news. Returning to camp with good news is satisfying. The leader listens to the scout's report, asks questions through gestures and limited words, examines the mental map being conveyed. He makes the final decision. The group will move within the week. Time to prepare. Preparation means deciding what to take and what to leave. Everything has to be carried, so weight matters. The fire gets special treatment. A large ember is placed in a container made from hollowed wood, surrounded by moss and dry grass for insulation. This ember will be carried carefully to the new location and used to start the new fire. Letting fire go completely out is dangerous. Starting it from scratch is possible but difficult, requires the right materials and technique and luck. Maintaining a continuous ember is easier. Tools, weapons, hides, preserved food, the baby's bedding, medicinal plants. Everything gets evaluated, prioritized, distributed among the group for carrying. The more you can transport, the easier the transition will be. But there's a limit to what 20 people can physically manage. Choices have to be made. Some things get left behind, abandoned in the old shelter for whoever might find them next. The mother with the newborn is a particular concern. She's not fully recovered, and the baby is still so young and vulnerable. Special arrangements get made. A carrying sling is fashioned from soft hide, allowing the baby to be strapped to the mother's chest, leaving both hands free. Other people will carry most of the mother's load, distributing the weight. The group takes care of its weakest members. That's not weakness. That's the strength that comes from cooperation. The day of the move arrives. The group assembles at dawn, everyone loaded with their assigned burdens. The leader does a final check, making sure nothing critical is forgotten. The fire carrier has the ember container, the opening facing upward to maintain oxygen flow. Smoke is coming from it, a good sign. The fire lives. The journey takes most of the day. It's slower than when the scouting party traveled, weighed down by possessions and needing to accommodate the mother and baby, the elders who can't move as fast as they used to, the young kids who need frequent breaks. But the group makes steady progress, following the river north. You walk in the middle of the formation, carrying a heavy bundle of hides and tools. Your shoulder handles the weight okay, a little sore, but functional. Around you, people are quiet, focused on the walk, conserving energy. This is a vulnerable time, strung out in a line, loaded with supplies. An attack now would be catastrophic. Everyone's on high alert. By late afternoon, the new shelter comes into view. There's a collective sound of relief and satisfaction. You made it. The group approaches the cave entrance, and the leader enters first, checking for occupants. Bears, lions, hyenas, all use caves for shelter too. Claiming one sometimes requires eviction. But the cave is empty, no sign of recent occupation. Lucky. The first task is fire. The ember carrier carefully transfers the glowing coal to a prepared nest of tinder inside the new cave. He blows gently, adding small twigs, building the flame. Within minutes, fire is burning in the new hearth. The continuity is maintained. The fire that warmed the old shelter now warms this one. There's symbolism in that, even if you can't fully express it. Connection to the past, hope for the future, all carried in one glowing ember. Everyone gets to work making the new shelter livable. Hides get spread on the floor in sleeping areas. Tools get organized near the entrance, where light is best for detailed work. Firewood gets stacked in a dry section. Food stores get positioned away from the sleeping area to avoid attracting pests. Within hours, the cave is starting to feel less like an empty hole in the rock and more like home. The baby fusses through most of this, overwhelmed by the change, feeding off her mother's stress. But eventually she settles, nursing, falling asleep against her mother's chest. Babies are resilient, adaptable. She doesn't know this isn't the place she was born. This is just where she is now. That's enough. That first night in the new shelter is strange. The acoustics are different. Sounds echo differently off these walls. The view from the entrance is unfamiliar. The drafts come from different directions, but the fire is the same, the people are the same, the routines are the same. Home isn't a location, really. It's the group. It's the shared experience of survival. As long as you're together, you're home. The next few days are about establishing territory. Hunting parties go out to learn the game trails, the watering spots, the behavior patterns of the local animals. Gathering parties map out plant resources, berry bushes, nut trees, root vegetables. The area is even richer than the scouts reported. This is prime territory. The group got lucky. But luck has a price. On the fourth day, another group of humans shows up at your shelter. There are about 15 of them, armed, clearly territorial. This is their land, or was their land, and they want to know what you're doing here. The situation is tense immediately. Two groups, one territory, limited resources. The math doesn't work. Someone has to leave, or there will be conflict. The leaders meet, yours and theirs, in the neutral space between the shelters. There's an attempt at communication, but these people speak differently enough that understanding is difficult. The gestures are clearer. This is ours. We were here first. You need to leave. Your leader responds, "We're here now. We're not leaving. We can share." The other leader looks unconvinced. For several hours, it's a standoff. Both groups are armed, ready to fight if necessary. But fighting is costly. People will die on both sides. Resources will be expended. Even the winners will lose. Gradually, through extended negotiation combining gestures, a few shared words, and a lot of mutual assessment, a compromise emerges. The territory will be shared, but divided. Your group gets the cave and the valley to the east. They keep their shelter and the valley to the west. The river is neutral. Both groups can access it. Hunting grounds are loosely divided with some overlap. It's not perfect, but it avoids immediate violence. The agreement holds, barely. There's tension whenever the groups encounter each other, but also grudging respect. You're both trying to survive in the same harsh world. Competition exists, but so does the recognition that other humans aren't necessarily enemies. Sometimes they're just other people trying to make it through another day. That's complicated, nuanced thinking. Your species is developing it in real time, figuring out how to navigate social relationships beyond the immediate family group. So, there you have it. A few days, maybe a week, in the life of Homo heidelbergensis, your distant ancestor, living 800,000 years ago in a world that would kill you in about 15 minutes if you were dropped into it with your modern soft body and complete lack of survival skills. They hunted megafauna with stone-tipped spears. They gathered food with their bare hands. They healed infections with plant poultices and hope. They gave birth without medical intervention. They migrated across hostile territory, carrying everything they owned. And they did it all while inventing language, one trembling, uncertain word at a time. Their lives were brutal, yes, constantly cold or hungry, or in pain, or terrified. The average lifespan was maybe 30 years if you were incredibly lucky. Most didn't make it that long. Infant mortality was horrific. Injuries that would be minor annoyances today were potential death sentences. There was no comfort, no convenience, no rest. Just the endless grind of survival, day after day, until you couldn't survive anymore. But here's the thing. They made it. Obviously, they made it. Because you're here, descended from an unbroken line of survivors that stretches back through the millennia. Every single one of your ancestors, going back hundreds of thousands of years, survived long enough to reproduce. They beat the odds. They outlasted the predators, the infections, the starvation, the cold, the competition, all of it. That's remarkable. And they weren't just surviving. They were creating. Culture, language, art, music, all of it emerging from those early communities gathered around fires in caves. They were teaching each other, learning, adapting, innovating. The hand axe you carry in your pocket today, metaphorically, is the descendant of the hand axes they laboriously chipped from stone. The stories you tell are descendants of their stories. The songs you sing started as their rhythmic chanting. Everything human begins with them, with their struggle, their persistence, their refusal to give up even when giving up would have been so much easier. So the next time you're lying in your temperature-controlled bedroom, on your comfortable mattress, with your fully stocked refrigerator in the next room, and modern medicine available if you need it, take a second to appreciate the journey. Appreciate the 800,000 years of humans fighting, surviving, adapting, evolving to create the world you live in now. Appreciate that your voice doesn't tremble when you speak, that you have thousands of words at your disposal, that you can express complex, abstract thoughts that your ancestor could barely imagine. You're the culmination of an unbroken chain of survival. You're the answer to every challenge your ancestors faced. You're proof that it was all worth it. Every cold night, every dangerous hunt, every painful injury, every terrifying encounter. They survived so that eventually, impossibly, you could exist. That's pretty special when you think about it. Good night, tired listener, and see you next time.